The sterile scent of the hospital was a transformative knife against Dr. Eleanor Bennett's consciousness, slicing through layers of personal and professional trauma. Her memories whispered of her own fractured childhood, now transmuted into a profound understanding of human suffering. Each breath she took was a deliberate act of healing, of bearing witness to the intricate landscapes of emotional pain. Standing outside room 408, a sanctuary of unspoken narratives, Eleanor understood that healing was never about erasing wounds, but about understanding their intricate topography. The door before her was more than wood and metal. It was a threshold between remembered pain and potential redemption. Inside, Mary Daniels sat beside her husband Robert, a businessman whose tailored exterior concealed years of emotional complexity. Their son's medical condition was merely the visible manifestation of a deeper, more nuanced family narrative. Generations of unexpressed trauma had woven themselves into their familial fabric, creating patterns both delicate and devastating. Dr. Samuel Curver moved with the precision of a surgeon of the soul. His hands, steady and warm, held not just medical files but the delicate architecture of human vulnerability. He had long understood that true healing transcended medical interventions. It was an act of radical empathy, of rebuilding human connections thread by fragile thread. Eleanor's memories flickered like distant lighthouse beams. Her father's harsh voice had once been her entire world, a scorching landscape of fear and uncertainty. But she had transformed that pain, alchemizing personal suffering into professional compassion. Each patient was a universe, each story a complex ecosystem of hurt and potential healing. The hospital room was a cathedral of vulnerability. Fluorescent lights cast stark shadows, revealing the intricate emotional landscapes of those within. Mary's hands, trembling slightly, clutched an old locket, a talisman of memories both painful and precious. Robert's businessman facade had begun to crack, revealing the frightened, wounded child beneath layers of professional armor. Dr. Curver understood that therapy was not about fixing, but about witnessing, about creating a space where suppressed narratives could breathe, where silence could be transformed into language, where pain could be acknowledged without being defined by it. "We have a path forward," he said softly, his words landing like gentle rain on parched emotional terrain. Mary's eyes, deep as midnight oceans, reflected decades of unexpressed pain. Years of emotional manipulation had constructed elaborate defense mechanisms, walls so intricate they had become part of her very identity. Breaking them would not be an act of destruction, but of liberation. Eleanor watched, her professional detachment holding space for their collective vulnerability. She knew that healing was never linear, never simple. It was a complex dance of acknowledgement, of allowing pain to exist without being consumed by it. Robert's hands, usually confident in boardrooms and negotiations, now trembled almost imperceptibly. The businessman's armor was dissolving, revealing a human being capable of profound transformation. His tailored suit, once a shield, now felt like an unnecessary costume. The room's sterility began to feel different. No longer just a clinical space, but a sanctuary of potential rebirth. Memories swirled like mist: Robert's distant corporate battles, Mary's suppressed tears, their son's silent suffering, all threads in a larger tapestry of human experience. Dr. Curver's touch was deliberate, compassionate. He was not just a therapist, but a cartographer of emotional landscapes, mapping routes through pain towards understanding. Each word, each moment of silence was a carefully considered intervention. "Healing isn't about blame," Eleanor murmured, more to herself than to anyone else. "It's about understanding the intricate ways we survive." Outside, light began to break through hospital windows, a metaphorical promise of transformation. The medical monitors beeped steadily, a rhythmic reminder of life's persistent nature. Hope and pain coexisted, not as contradictions, but as complementary energies. Their son's condition represented more than a medical challenge. It was a fulcrum around which their entire family narrative was beginning to pivot. Each breath, each shared glance was an act of collective healing. As afternoon light filtered through clinical blinds, something profound was happening. Invisible wounds were being acknowledged. Generational patterns of silence and suppression were beginning to dissolve, not through dramatic confrontation, but through the quiet, revolutionary act of truly seeing one another. Dr. Samuel Curver knew that this moment, this precise intersection of vulnerability and potential, was where true healing resided. Not in grand gestures, but in microscopic shifts of perception. In learning to hold pain with compassion. In understanding that every human story is simultaneously unique and universal. Mary's hand, which had always been tentative, now rested with newfound strength on her husband's arm. Robert's eyes, usually reserved for corporate spreadsheets, now reflected a depth of emotion previously unexplored. They were rewriting their story, not erasing the past, but transforming its meaning. Each word, each moment of shared vulnerability was a stitch in a new emotional fabric, more resilient, more authentic, more true. The scent of antiseptic began to fade, replaced by something warmer, something that felt like hope, something that tasted